Hot dog.
Hey, welcome to Class Act Media. I'm Jack, and hey, Spider-Man Far From Home is coming soon. We're all excited for that, right? Well, no, I guess not. Yeah, the MCU Spidey has been a bit controversial with Spider-Man fans. But as a really big fan of Spider-Man and as a really big fan of Homecoming, I had to ask, is this a bad Spider-Man movie? Well, let's take a look. And we'll consider this sort of a response video to High Top Films' video of the same subject. But this isn't going to be like a High Top Films destroyed with facts and logic, because I really respect that guy. This is just my opinion. I'm somebody who values comic accuracy in my superhero movies. Why shouldn't I? I've been reading the comics for years. I've earned the right to be catered to. But the MCU has been going for so long that it's really matured into its own thing that's more or less divorced from the comics. That's not to say it doesn't stay true to the spirit of them, though. Iron Man is still a cocky playboy who learns humility. Captain America is still the shining pinnacle of human goodness. Bruce Banner and the Hulk are still two wildly different personalities struggling to live in the same body peacefully. And Thor? Well, Thor is probably the most changed from the comics. I mean, sure, originally he was still firmly planted in his godly roots, but then they realized that wasn't really working and they just said, Taika Waititi, do whatever you want. That's not to say Ragnarok doesn't still feel true to the comics. A lot of the sets and locales in the movie look just like Jack Kirby drawings. All this to say that when Spider-Man finally got his MCU adaptation, fan opinion was mixed. And after watching the video by High Top Films, I had to ask myself, is Homecoming really a bad Spider-Man movie? Well, like I said, if a movie sticks close to the spirit of the comics, then I'm happy. So, let's take a look at who Spider-Man is, at least to me. In fact, let's make a list, because I love lists. Point 1. Spider-Man is a hero for the little guy. I mean, he's called the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for a reason. Point 2. Spider-Man is constantly juggling his life as a superhero with his life as Peter Parker, with often disastrous results for his personal life. Point 3. Spider-Man is kind of a loner in the superhero world. Not to say he doesn't have superhero friends, characters like Human Torch, Wolverine, and Doctor Strange all get along with him really well, but he's not really one to run around saving the world side by side with the Avengers. I guess this ties back into point 1. Point 4. Spider-Man cares about all life. Whether it's his friends, the people of New York, or even his enemies, Spidey's not one to sit by when he can save a life. He kinda has a bad history with that. Lastly, I'd like to add point 5. Spidey should be the most human Marvel superhero. When Stan Lee conceptualized the first Marvel heroes, his goal was to give them problems and issues that the average person could relate to, and Spider-Man is the leading example of that way of thinking. We should look at Peter Parker and say in equal measures, I want to be him and I am him. Never has a super genius been so relatable. Also, point 6, he's a jokey jokester. I'll just tack that one on there. Okay, that's everything I need for a good Spidey movie. Let's begin our Homecoming scavenger hunt. Point 1. Spider-Man is a hero for the little guy. I mean, that's kind of what this whole movie's about, isn't it? I don't see many people arguing against this point, so I'll keep it brief. But honestly, I've never seen a Spider-Man movie where he's felt so connected to New York. All the other movie Spideys really only interact with New York in a superhero crime fighter sense. Sure, the Raimi movies have stuff like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, and the train scene. But I think it's nice to see Spider-Man as just another part of the city, helping out where he can. Not even stopping crimes, just giving directions to someone or being a generally good dude. Even when he's Peter, you can tell why he loves this city. One of my main problems with the Raimi movies is that New York is always presented as really mean to Peter Parker when he's not suited up as Spider-Man, so it kind of feels like the only reason he's even saving it is because he loves Mary Jane. In Homecoming, though, I can totally see why he loves this city, so I think we can check this one off. Next up, point 2. Spider-Man is constantly juggling his life as a superhero with his life as Peter Parker. One of the biggest issues High Top Films expressed with Homecoming in his video was the lack of consequences for Peter. And fair enough, it's not like his life actively falls to shit around him due to his choices, but the way I see it, that's not the most important thing. What's important is that Pete always takes responsibility for his actions. Wow, responsibility, that's kind of a big deal for Spider-Man, right? When the bodega is destroyed during his fight with the ATM robbers, he makes the choice to save the people inside rather than finish the fight. When he realizes that his classmates are in danger because of his carelessness, you'd better believe his first priority becomes saving their lives at all costs to himself. And I mean, if you're looking for real-world consequences for his actions, how about the fact that a family is basically torn apart as a direct result of Pete making the hard choice to do the right thing? Sure, Peter's life may not be actively miserable in this version of the character, but it's still full of hard choices that he has to make. After all...
Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
Yeah, that works too. Point 4. Spider-Man is kind of a loner in the superhero world. Okay, this is going to be a trickier one to justify, especially considering how integral Iron Man is to this Spider-Man's origins, but I'll still do my best. Sure, Spidey does sort of feel a bit like the Robin to Iron Man's Batman in the MCU. But as Tony himself directly states...
You know that I was the only one who believed in you? Everyone else said I was crazy to recruit a 14-year-old kid.
The movie is kind of about Spider-Man trying to be accepted by the superhero community and join the Avengers. But then, at the end, when given the opportunity to join the Avengers, he realizes that that's not where he belongs. He's needed down on the street, fighting for the little guy. Hey, remember earlier how I said that this tied back into point 1? I'm an amazing writer. Also, spoilers for Endgame. Seriously, I'm about to spoil Endgame. Click to this point in the video if you don't want Endgame spoiled for you. With Iron Man now dead and thus Pete's only real connection to the greater MCU gone, maybe that's the direction they're heading in, I don't know. I guess that last point's a bit of a reach since I can't see the future, but that's where I think they're going with the character. Point 4. Spider-Man cares about all life. As I said earlier, while the MCU sticks to the core ideals of its comic book counterparts, it still does its own thing with them. As such, most of the heroes who avoid killing in the comics, Iron Man, Captain America, etc., have no qualms about it in the movies. But when it came to Spider-Man, they knew that wasn't going to fly. Spidey's no-killing policy is an essential part of his character, and thus could not be changed under any circumstances. He even saves Vulture from accidentally blowing himself up at the end. Yeah, if the bad guy is associated with something that happened to explode, that would still be on Pete's conscience, Zach. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. On the subject of Vulture, as much as I like that Homecoming avoided the superhero movie staple of bad guy gets kicked into an explosion and dies, I was still kind of annoyed that it did the villain learns the hero's secret identity thing. In fact, I could and probably will make a whole video about why I hate that trope. I can't be too mad about it though, since the good ol' Spider-Man scene is one of the best parts in any MCU movie. And it's not like every one of his villains is gonna find out who Pete really is. Oh, come on! Point 5. Spidey should be the most human Marvel superhero. I'll admit this one was a challenge. It's not that Holland Spidey doesn't feel human, but the MCU does a great job of making even the less human characters from the comics feel more grounded. I mean, just look at Thor. But the more I think about it, Pete remains the most real of any of them, even here. As much as I love Tony and Thor, there's always going to be a disconnect between an audience of regular people and a multi-billionaire or a god. And Cap is really supposed to be an inspiration among a cast of aspirations. Spidey's the only one not hanging out in the glitzy tower or the huge mansion. Sure, even though his suit was a gift to him by Iron Man, he's still making his web fluid stealthily in his science class. And hey, even all his powers weren't entirely gifted to him. He had to jailbreak the suit in order to unlock its full potential. Honestly, I think not showing the spider bite does even more to make him relatable. He's not a regular guy who some 1,000,000-to-1 accident happened to, he's just a regular guy. Yeah, I know the spider bite did happen, but you get my point, right? Really, that's one of the things I disliked about Infinity War. It undid a lot of the good Spidey stuff that Homecoming set up. But we're just talking about Homecoming here, so that gets a check. Point 6. Spidey's a jokey jokester. Okay, this one is really just a personal nitpick I have about the Raimi movies, but why doesn't this little dweebazoid tell any jokes?
It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind.
You know what? I take it back. You can stop telling jokes now. Anyway, I hope I've made myself clear. Sure, MCU Spider-Man changes a lot from the source material, but after the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I think general audiences needed a pretty drastic change of scenery. And I think buried under all that change, the heart of Spidey is still alive and well, at least to me. Fun fact, my mom went to see Homecoming, and then afterwards she asked me 2 questions. She was confused because she thought the ATM robbers were the Avengers, and she thought the Avengers were good guys. And also, she thought that Flash Thompson was the Flash, the DC comic superhero. And she was confused because she wanted to know why he wasn't helping Spider-Man stop the bad guys, or why everyone knew his secret identity. I just thought that was funny, and also I didn't have a good way to end the video. See you next time, guys.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies.